Afternoon, everybody. My name is John Love with Prochant. We're going to give it about 1 minute. I still see people filing in for the webinar. Before we get started, really glad to have all of you here. I appreciate having you all here and taking this quick 30 minutes for our monthly webinar that we do over here on Prochant. I guess we'll take probably 1 minute or so just to I still see names popping in, and so I don't want to miss anybody. So we'll be back with you somewhere 45 seconds to 1 minute. Again, thanks for your patience. Okay, I think we're good. We're going to go ahead and get started, everybody. Hey, welcome. I know it's, I guess on the West Coast, it's morning. For most of us, it's afternoon. So good afternoon. Thanks for taking your lunchtime or post-lunch to be with us. My name is John Love, and this is Prochant's monthly webinar series that we do from our infusion division. I want to welcome Brandon Carpenter. Hi, Brandon. Are you on?
Hey, John. How are you?
Good, good, good. Welcome, Brandon. So everybody, just a quick opportunity to look through kind of who we are. I'm Vice President of Business Development for Prochant, and you've got my email there. So many of you may remember Brandon and I in this industry where we worked together side by side at Rock Pond Solutions for Brandon, I don't know, like 67 years or something like that.
Yeah, it right? Sounds about right. Yeah.
At least it felt like it at times. We do have Brandon's a great friend and a colleague, and we have a passion for data. We have a passion for good reimbursement analytics. At Prochant, what we do is we are, the nation's largest post-acute reimbursement company. About a year ago, we launched an infusion business on top of our HME reimbursement outsourcing. And quickly growing. We're growing very, very fast. Who we work with is we work with lots and lots of infusion companies that are becoming disenfranchised with how ridiculous reimbursement's getting, how hard it is to keep our people and maintain our people, how hard it is to stay up with the experience that we need in our CPR Plus, our Keratin, our Brightree, our home infusion in general. And so that's what we do. We're a full outsourcing company. And so Brandon, why don't you talk a second? You're the president and CEO of MedEdge Solutions. Maybe talk for a second about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Just like you said, we are passionate about data. We are passionate about integrations and automation. And we help those customers who, again, are disenfranchised with just the processes in general of what it takes to run an infusion or specialty pharmacy. And so some of the things that we help them do is pull the needles out of the haystack. And so, there's so many things that they know how to do over and over and over again. We help them to automate those processes and then bring to the forefront those things that don't exactly fit in. And we'll probably get to some of those things here as we talk, but yeah, we're really passionate about helping folks in general to improve patient care.
Yeah, and you work in what systems do you work with? You work with most of the major ones, right?
Yeah, I work. We handle home infusion, specialty, DME, and retail, and so we work with Brightree as well as CPR Plus and Keratin and Pioneer RX.
Okay. Fantastic. So I'm going to open up our conversation, Brandon. I mean, you and I were on the executive board of an analytics company for years. We're going to talk about the top 5 metrics. Before we jump into that, we had that conversation leading up to this, and it was around how you have to be careful because the amount of metrics that are out there. How would you respond to, an understanding that you have to be careful because so much data is out there that you'll get lost and looking for it all.
Exactly. And what you're describing is paralysis analysis and by analysis, excuse me. And we see so many customers do that. They're like, we have this metric for this payer and this metric for this person and everything. And what we like to do is help people kind of think about it from a perspective of leading indicators and then key performance indicators. And so, when we talk about, what are those things, you want to think about it like a coat rack. You've got the overall thing, but then there are things you hang other numbers off of to kind of segregate your business. But you don't want to have everybody trying to manage 20 different things, because as you know, when everything's important, nothing's important. And so we really try to help folks to really kind of boil those metrics down to say, listen, if you get to a certain point, if you take care of the macro, the micro typically takes care of itself. And so, when you're talking about the fact that, I get my DSO down from 95 to 60 days, if a payer is sitting out there at 120 and they're, not bringing your total DSO down, you don't need to be like pounding on that one necessarily. Overall, you're doing good. There are reasons that payers might have DSOs at such high numbers and things like that. Same thing for customers who are just, looking at, denials and things like that. Like, we just constantly get this, and it's like, well, let's work on that. But overall, your numbers are good. So you may not have, an overarching problem that you need something that just laser focus on. Overall, your numbers are good. And so many of them just get lost in that analysis of their numbers that they just get stuck.
Yeah, I think that's a key that we see, right? I mean, being a reimbursement company, a lot, our customers outsource to us and they want great data, and that's what we have a whole team to do. But I can tell you this, I mean, we could tell them, we could spend all day telling them reimbursement metrics that don't really move the needle, to be honest. And a lot of them want that because, again, they understand, right, that everything's available now in data. So why don't we look at everything? But I don't think that's key. So we're going to start with, and so we've kind of, having put that out there, that, we've said we're going to indicate the top 5 reimbursement metrics that we think every infusion pharmacy needs to be tracked right now. I think it starts with unconfirmed aging. Unconfirmed tickets and aging, Brandon, and I lost your video feed, Brandon. I don't know if that's on purpose or not. I'll leave that up to you. Unconfirmed aging, how long it's taking to confirm. This is a major issue inside of pharmacies. You want to walk us through what you see every day there?
Yeah. So it's really amazing. And as your business begins to grow and scale, some of these things are really kind of a no-brainer. But I've worked with pharmacies, across the country, and I've seen folks who, struggle with something as simple as confirming whether or not a delivery ticket was received by a patient. Whether that's something that you do from an in-house perspective or a nurse delivery, or even those of you who use, UPS or FedEx or something to ship, getting that confirmation. I mean, if you've got 100 tickets, you're out there trying to determine, did this get delivered, and did we get a signature for certain things, or do we have a proof of delivery from our couriers? You're talking about resources just constantly going back and forth trying to get that. And, I've had people who have had serious timely filing issues on things that were never, ever confirmed. And so when you think about that, with a lot of payers being 180, if not 365 days, you're talking about a year that, revenue was sent out and never billed.
Right.
And so things like that are just tremendously detrimental to a pharmacy. And let's just be honest, when you send something out and you never get paid for it, you're never going to keep above water.
Yeah, and the crazy thing for me is I hear it, I'm sure you hear it all the time. That's just how things go sometimes. Like, no, they don't have to go that way. what you're doing when you don't measure your unconfirmed, right? When you don't, measure that, you're not asking the question, like why, how long is it taking and why is it taking? And when you don't
Right.
ask that, you're assuming things, and then you're kind of creating this I guess we call it just this culture of we're just okay with it. So
Right.
the next thing we're talking about is really unbilled aging.
Yeah, no, and this is another key one. So now we already know, in the world of some systems, it's the confirmed but unbilled. Now you've got things that where this will throw you off is you might have it on hold, like we're waiting on paperwork or prior auth perhaps, or CMN or SMN, whatever. That's great and everything, but who's tracking that? And are you keeping track of the fact that, hey, this has been sitting in this status for 30 days and nobody ever went and checked to say, oh,
Right.
We already got that and we can bill for that. Again, timely filing is a huge issue with pharmacies that we see this type of thing with. And so you're just sitting there going, man, I hope someone realized that CMN had revenue tied to it when it came in and notified somebody else in billing. So it's really trying to bring all those departments together. And so, we've done some things where we show unbilled aging, where, here's the documents attached to a patient so that they can say, oh, this is holding on that CMN and that CMN is sitting right there. So let's get this out the door.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm not gonna bury the lead here because obviously, I do this for a living, outsourcing reimbursement, but I'm under the belief here that almost everything that we see here is because there is a massive problem with under-resourced reimbursement teams in home infusion. We simply don't have enough people. The cracks get bigger and bigger because we don't have enough people, or they cost too much and we're trying to manage our profit, or we can't find anybody who knows what they're doing, so it takes a year to train them. So we have enough people, but we've had turnover. So 4 of those 10 people or whatever it is don't know what they're doing yet. So I'm not going to bury the lead here. I really believe that when you see these things happening, and you constantly see these things happening, usually it's because we don't have enough time and people to actually measure these metrics. And if we do find out there's a problem, we don't have enough labor to actually go fix the problem.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, the next one is your favorite. It's going to be denials. So I'd be remiss not to talk about the fact that I was just talking with a pharmacy maybe a month ago who said we don't really do a good job, or don't really nobody really expects to track our denials around here. And I thought, my goodness.
Yeah, exactly.
And what I would, your paycheck not coming in and you didn't track it.
Exactly. And so the first thing that when we talk to folks and they're struggling with their reimbursement is, okay, well, why are you getting denied? And if they tell us they're not tracking denials, I say, well, you just told yourself what step 1 is. Because if you don't know why, you can't fix the problem. And so, so many times we talk to folks and go, okay, let's look at your expected versus unexpected. And what's that proportion? What's that percentage? And so many times we see examples like this where, 10% of our denials coming in are actually expected. And really it should be more like 99%. And so, we help folks look at, why that's coming in. And I'll just be honest with you, John, some of these things are something that's completely preventable. And so now what you're doing is you're just learning your own time.
Can I replace your word "some" with most? Most of these things are completely unpreventable, right?
Yes, exactly. Most of them are preventable.
Just being nice. Yeah.
So again, like you said, a lot of folks coming in, they might just be learning how to do infusion billing, which is a lot different than hospital or physician billing, and so they forget to put modifiers on claims, or they don't realize that something is not billable, or all this type of thing. So we've helped a lot of pharmacies And an example of one of these is I worked with a large regional provider in the Northeast, and they were just drowning in AR, to be honest with you, because it was taking them so long. So they had a big AR issue, they had a big DSO issue, and they weren't tracking their denials. Once they started tracking their denials, we started realizing, A, your contracts aren't set up properly. B, you guys are making preventable mistakes on the bills. And so we helped develop a plan that said, hey, here are your top 5 denial issues across the board.
Right.
Before the bills even go out the door, we're going to check for these things. And within 30 days, John, they had gone from collecting somewhere between 75 and 85% of cash to revenue to going above 100% for like a 6 to 8 month period.
Yeah, because they were collecting all that cash that they had missed out.
They were collecting all the old stuff. They were getting clean claims out the door. Right. And so you can just imagine what that did for not only from a cash flow perspective, but a DSO, AR, and we'll get into it. But I mean, AR is important, especially if you're growing and you're trying to use your AR to, get lines of credit and those types of things, as well as, if you have an exit strategy, you want that stuff to be as clean as possible to get top dollar for your business. So, these are very important things that you need to maintain and manage to reach your goals.
Yeah. Particularly if you have an exit strategy, because, if you're a pharmacy that has a lot of old AR and you're like, hey, I've got somebody that's going to acquire us, but they don't want anything over 90 days. It's like, oh man, it's a lot of, that's a lot of stuff out there that I could have done. So, hey, let's keep going. It's funny how another metric that doesn't seem to be big for folks is kind of that cash to net revenue,
right.
Metric that now at Prochant, this is our top line metric. We want to say to our clients, and we say to our, we have 2 types of clients. We have clients and not yet clients. That's all we believe at Prochant. We really believe that at some point we're going to work hard enough and do this enough that everyone's going to want to work with us, and that's what our desire is. But we ask all the question, do you really understand your cash to net revenue percentage? Like, do you know, hey, $100 went out the door, how many dollars came back in, and what percentage am I averaging? And so, we talked right here how good are your collection agents in general, but I mean, most do perform. So we see an average, right? A national average of about 84, 85%, and I hear people say to me, that's kind of the cost of doing business. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're leaving at least 10%. Now let's think about what a specialty infusion drug costs. Imagine if 10% of those were, that's a lot of money that we've just decided that, hey, and it's almost like there's folks who say, we've kind of given up on 400,000 of extra profit a year. I'm like, maybe that's not the right mode to have in a hyper competitive, big box are coming in and pushing in to our space and trying to push us out. So what are you seeing out there from a cash to net revenue that would drive you to have people really look at that constantly?
Yeah, no, and that's a great point, John. I mean, you think about that from that perspective, and you're talking about the difference between having an average business to a great business. And so again, going back to the pharmacy I was telling you about, when they're 75 to 85%, and you're talking about 15% of their revenue not getting collected for a long time, in today's competitive business, your margins aren't that big, especially when you're talking about specialty items. And so your ability to collect on those types of things is huge. And so a lot of times people are just, like you said, just kind of haphazardly going about it and going, well, I mean, cash is coming in the door. That's fantastic. And so, but they're not really comparing, their collection rate to their actual booked revenue until it becomes a problem in them looking at their AR and their DSO.
Yeah, and it's a war of attrition, right? And so you just don't realize. It's almost like personal debt. I remember being young and in college, and they set up that table and told me I could have my credit card, and I was like, yes. And you just didn't realize what was ballooning over here until finally you looked at it and said, this is an issue, an albatross. And that's what AR becomes. It becomes an albatross because, we need that cash in your bank account in order for you to purchase drugs, run a lean pharmacy, in order for you to manage the ups and downs, to push into new markets and to do things. And when that cash is hung up on the shelf for fixable things, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy to see.
Absolutely, because the other ancillary thing to that is now you've got lines of credit out there that you're running your business off of because you can't collect on that cash, and so you're just you're just paying somebody else because you're not going out there and getting that money from somebody else who owes you, and so that can have a tremendous effect on your bottom line.
Yeah, and listen, we have the ability now. Not everybody is as steeped in data and as Prochant or MedEdge, and we have entire data teams and software engineers that work on that. So I want to be mindful that if I'm just in ABC home infusion, I might not have that ability. But I do want to present things like we're looking at now, which is, hey, it's not that difficult to set up things that allow you to track what every day, like what's my cash versus revenue, for that day, what went out that day and what came in, and am I tracking in a way that I can collect. Again, I think that I want to be mindful that not everybody has those resources that we have, which is why we exist, right? We want them to contract with us, of course.
Right.
You can do that. You don't have to be mystified of what that is, right?
Absolutely not. There are plenty of ways that we've helped customers, small to enterprise level, 50 states, $1.5 billion companies, and it never ceases to amaze me the fact that some of the small guys just think they don't have what it takes to compete. And we come in and show them, like, guys, this isn't as hard as you think. For instance, I had a customer coming to us almost a year ago now, looking for something as simple as sales rep reporting by revenue by sales rep, because he had 2 guys, and he's like, I mean, I'm really not as big, but he's like, I'm hoping to grow. And then basically, simple reports to help him manage that. He's up to 8 sales reps now in a year, simply because the information is presented to him in such a way that he knows instantaneously what's going on. The sales reps knows what's going on, and everything. And he's like, man, I could probably manage 80 sales reps at this rate with this tool. And so, you don't have to be a big guy to play like the big guys.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what we do here at Prochant. I mean, we have, upwards of 900 employees. We're a global company. We've been in business for 20 years. So anyone who comes and does business with us, we're going to try to put you on that same level. I assume you do that as well, and I know that you do that as well. So let's talk about your favorite, AR aging. I'll tell you, I'll go first. There's like an evil mountain, okay, and there's base camps, and it's 90 and 180 for me. When like those are the two where you're like, you cannot, everything they hit those odd bad milestones, right? I mean, they just kill you.
Exactly. And so, for one thing, you're basically, financing, folks' medical bills for them at, once you get to 90 and 180 days, you're just basically probably no chance of ever getting that money. And, looking at your AR, again, as we talked about exit strategies and lines of credit and things like that, basically you can expect anything over 90 to, what we've seen, especially with recent credit markets, is that doesn't count. I'm sorry. And so, looking at those types of things is real big. And we've helped folks with, payer projects. And I'm sure you have too, of just being able to pull the information and say, hey, listen, here's the line items that you haven't paid on in a nice big Excel spreadsheet like payers love, because, they still think it's the 1970s and have to do everything manually like that. But, for us, so many times before, we've had folks tell us, yeah, we just download into our spreadsheet and we do this and that and have to go get this information because our system doesn't allow us to get that. And we come in and say, no, tell us exactly what you need. And we print it out and we get it to them where they can do it with a click of a button. And then suddenly they're working faster and more efficient than the payers are. And so then the payers are just like, okay, fine, here's your money. And so, being able, again, to act like a big guy, doesn't have to, mean you have to be a big guy. And so something as simple as, looking at what is over 90 or 180 days, as well as, another thing is your patient pay, John. I mean,
sure.
A lot of times it used to be back in the quote unquote golden days of infusion, you didn't care about the patient pay because things were so profitable. And again, with today's competitive market, you can't just not collect on patient pay. There's regulatory things now on that, as well as it's not profitable until we start getting the patient to pay. And so, here we are at almost the end of the first quarter. And I'm sure a lot of folks' patient pay has ballooned due to, deductibles and high deductible plans and those types of things. And so, people are probably scrounging around trying to figure out how do we get, our collection rate up higher and how do we do those things. And so, some of the stuff that we've done is help them create, easy to read patient statements, help them to get metrics around those collection rates as well. But again, this AR aging, think about my analogy of the coat rack. You want to hang your business on this, but then you have smaller things that trickle down from that. And so, but yeah, definitely you're over 180 and 90, as well as your patient pay balances.
Yeah, finishing up around DSO, I was on with a pharmacy maybe 2 months ago that asked me what DSO was when I was talking about like we should probably know what DSO is in our industry. And again, I'm not trying to say that, and I'm just trying to say that there's an education gap, and that's why we exist, you and I and what we do here. Man, take about a minute here as we finish up and just talk through, how you think people need to be tracking their DSO.
Yeah, so first off, there's a big difference between DSO and cash velocity. A lot of people use those terms interchangeable. Cash velocity is how fast a claim got paid. DSO is an overall ratio of your AR to your average daily sales. And so, and that's a very, a gap principle. And so, it's kind of overall business wise. And again, we talk about macro versus micro. DSO, a lot of folks are like, I'd like to be, of course, 40, the less the better, but, somewhere around 45, 60 days type of things, ideal. And we've seen folks who are 90, plus days, and I'm sure you've got some good horror stories on that, but.
And look, I mean, and let's just call it what it is. United Healthcare's DSO is going to look different than others.
Exactly.
And so that might drag it down, but you must be tracking it, exactly. That you must be tracking it, and that's a major one here. So we're at the end of our time here, and I want to be respectful for the 30 minutes that all these folks have given to us. Certainly, on our side at Prochant, we want to have a conversation with everybody on the line. And the conversation we want to have is, are you happy with your reimbursement being at what it is? What would it be like if you got 97% of your cash to net revenue? What would it be like if you got back to being that pharmacy? That's kind of ours. And you see, my contact there. Brandon, what would your message be to folks out there if they picked up the phone to call you?
Yeah, we want to talk to those dreamers, the ones that believe the world can be different than what it is today. And so if you're struggling with your workflow processes, integrations with your dispensing systems, or just trying to get information out, we would love to talk with you. Again, we offer solutions from everybody to the small to the large. So no customer is too small. And we hear that all the time where people are like, I tried to talk to this person or that person. They're just like, you guys just aren't big enough. And we love them all, man. We're all in here to take care of patients. And so we want to make them all work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hey, Brandon, thanks so much for taking the time. It was great being on the line with you again, and we'll do it again real soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your day.